Welcome to the WordPress Photography Podcast, the podcast for photographers who want to learn how to get the most out of WordPress to grow their photography business. You don't need to be a geek to understand WordPress. Settle back and listen as we show you how. Now, here's your host, Scott Wyden-Kivowitz.
Welcome to episode number 26. My name is Scott Wyden-Kivowitz, and I'm joined by my co-host, Rachel Conley from Photoscribe. Hey, Rachel.
Hey, Scott. How are you?
I'm doing well. It was an interesting week, and actually, the last episode is going to be it was a Snap episode. It was the first of our Snap episodes, which is pretty cool.
Yes.
So anybody who's listening, and if you don't like the name Snap for the short 5-minute episodes, please submit your suggestion for a new name. We are not set in stone with the word Snap, and we are open to suggestions. I also want to do a little call to action to everybody to please leave us a review on iTunes, on Stitcher, or wherever you're listening, because any review that you leave will help us improve the podcast or get the podcast in the ears of new, photographers who should be listening. So.
Yeah, and we really take that feedback seriously. We definitely want to know what you want to hear, and then we can change it up and make sure that you are hearing what you want to hear.
Yeah. And last but not least, we are getting close to episode 30, and that is our next Q&A episode. So if you have any questions you want included there, or if we get to 10 and we start the next Q for episode 40, please submit your questions at imagely.com/podcast/Q. And that's how we will get your questions to be used on each episode. That's a Q&A episode.
Yes.
So, I'm excited for today's episode. We are talking with Chris Aram, and Chris is a husband, a father, photographer, the co-founder of Gively.com, which we'll have a chance to talk about as well, which is a really cool service. He is a beer snob, but most of all, he is a student of life. He loves images that are beautiful yet authentic, and he takes a lot of pride in being easy to work with and someone that you can trust and to sweat all of the details. So Chris does a lot of work for photographers. He's done work for some of the other guests that's been on the show. And so you'll get to hear a little bit of what he does, what he offers, and all the cool things going on in his life. So welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Scott and Rachel.
Yeah.
Yes, we're very happy. Chris is actually my go-to person, and we'll hear about more of the consulting services you do for photographers. But when they have WordPress problems, I always send them to Chris. So we're very excited to talk to you today.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before we dig into what's going on with you, Chris, we're going to jump into a little bit of WordPress photography-related news. The first, I got 3 pieces. The first is the 2017 theme. WordPress, when a new major update to WordPress comes out at the beginning of a new year, they release a new default theme. The new theme will be 2017. And what's really cool is they started building in a page builder into the theme settings. And this is new for a default WordPress theme to do. And the cool thing is that by doing so, they might be starting the official standard for page builders for WordPress. So that means that if this happens and this becomes a standard for page builders, it's going to change WordPress forever, making it even easier for every photographer to make pages and things like that. But it also means that plugins that already are page builders might need to adjust themselves to adapt to the new standard. So it should be really cool to see what comes of it. There's not really any live demos of it yet, but it's just in the planning stages, and I think it's going to be neat. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there. I mean, right now we talk so much about adding the plugins that do that, but making WordPress easier for anyone in any way is just a good thing all around.
Yep, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Next on my list is I just got back from Canada Photo Convention, which was in Toronto, and it was incredible. I did a talk on image SEO, and I gave a challenge to everybody to do less, to include less photographs in their blog posts and do more words. In fact, it's the 300-word challenge, because search engines prefer 300 words to rank well. ideally you want 500, but 300 is the minimum, really. So I challenge everybody, all the attendees of the conference, to try the 300 word challenge, and a lot of them are going to take me up on the challenge, and I hope that they follow through from it. And I hope anybody who's listening who also wants to try that challenge also follows through, because it's difficult, but it's definitely possible.
Yeah.
So the last is that CoSchedule, who we just had Nathan from CoSchedule on the show. CoSchedule just made some announcements, some pretty big things that are in the works, like Instagram integration, which is awesome.
Wow.
And so they're going to have a Android and iPhone app available. So it'll sort of work how the Buffer app works and the Latergram works, where you add your content to the queue, it notifies you on your phone, and then you can quickly add it to Instagram. That's the way that Instagram wants you to do it, because there are services that do it automatically, but those are not technically allowed by Instagram. So CoSchedule is going to be doing it the right way. There's also going to be re-queuing of social content. It's a different way from their current automation feature, and it looks pretty neat. So a lot of exciting things, and we'll link to all this in the show notes for anybody who wants to check it out further. So,
does CoSchedule do Pinterest?
Yes, they do.
Okay, so that's it, right? They do all of them now.
Yeah, they do all the big ones. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And
Totally.
to be able to do it, I mean, I know CoSchedule has a standalone app, but to be able to do it from WordPress and right from the dashboard, I mean, it's a one-stop shop almost, you know?
Yeah, it's amazing. The fact that not only will you be able to send it to Instagram right from a blog post, basically, you publish your blog post and then boom, you're going out to Instagram, is that you're literally scheduling it for the best time on Instagram. So you're scheduling it for the most engagement, the most likes, and things like that. So
yeah,
really cool stuff.
I still take caution with that because we are photographers. So our target audience may be different than their proposed target audiences. So I still say, test that on your own.
Without a doubt.
But it is nice to have that feature, so it's just one less thing that you don't have to think about.
Yep. And if you are going to plan on scheduling your Instagram, or if you're already doing it, you might want to change your Instagram account to a business account, which actually tells you your best times.
Yeah, absolutely.
Based on all the analytics that it gives you, you can determine your best times. So cool stuff.
Awesome.
Chris, what's going on with you?
I'm sitting here thinking, I wish I was taking notes. I'm going to have to come back to this. I'm learning some things already. Yeah, that all actually sounds really interesting. I got to come back and check that out later on. But yeah, otherwise I'm good. We're here in Ohio. It's fall. It's ridiculously beautiful outside. It's been 70s and sunny for a month plus now, so it's good.
Awesome.
But
you're probably about to get the cool wave that we're getting on the East Coast right now.
Yeah. It just actually it did drop about 15 degrees here a few days ago. But yeah, it's been great. Nice.
So you've been doing a lot of work for photographers lately, which is really cool, and you're getting a lot of referrals from the two of us and from from many others. And so tell us some of the things that you've been doing for, you don't have to name who you're doing it for, but some of the things that you're doing for photographers in the industry already.
Well, so a lot of times people come to me with, their theme gets them halfway there, or it's mostly what they want, but they want like custom code or custom functionality, or things that maybe a plugin doesn't gracefully handle necessarily. So in some cases, it is pointing people to a plugin, or and that's, I'm learning that as I go too. But other times it is just it's easier just to code it for them. So mostly, I've also had a number of people who are coming from like a SmugMug based site or a Squarespace based site, and they want to go to WordPress. So just helping them out with that. And really, and maybe this is something we'll get to shortly, but for me, WordPress has always been very powerful, but it's not always been easy to use. And so that's something that's really caught my eye about Imagely and what you guys are doing is you're really, the hosting, the backing up, all of the technical parts of having a WordPress-based site that are not necessarily fun or easy to do. you're doing a lot of that heavy lifting for them. So,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
so sometimes that's, those are things that me, I've been in IT for a long time. That's something that I help people out with a lot. But it's really exciting to me that you guys are really innovating there and bringing that, again, a lot of that more difficult stuff. You're taking care of that for a photographer who is not technical and does not want to be technical.
Yeah. So my question to you, I mean, you've been in IT. We know that you co-founded Gively, and I definitely want to talk more about what that is and what that means for photographers.
Sure.
What is your background, both in WordPress and as a photographer? How did you enter this space?
So I went to school for computer science, and that's kind of what I had always wanted to do. And then when my wife and I got married in 2008, I was blown away to see what photography had become. I mean, what I knew of wedding photography was what we saw in my parents' albums, 24 film-based images, and if they were in focus, it was a good picture. And to see like what digital was bringing along, and this was right when the Nikon D3 was coming out. And just I think the storytelling, like just seeing, this is literally the happiest day of someone's life. Being able to tell that story, and because you're both married, I mean, you understand, like it's that day goes by so quickly. These things that we tell our clients as wedding photographers, they're true. And so just for me, that was a really, I want to get into weddings, and I was fortunate to have a friend who mentored me, and I really enjoyed that. So I've been doing those for 8 years now, and then again IT again, as a day job most of that time.
Nice.
And so where did the inspiration, so Gively, and I want to hear in your own words, but I love the concept of being a registration for couples who are getting married and want to spend some of the gift money towards photography. How did that come across? Is that built on WordPress? What is the back end on that platform?
Sure. So a couple of points there. We were just, my friend and I, Aram Nyholt, who actually was also my mentor in wedding photography, we were brainstorming a couple of years ago now, like what are some ways we can just sell more. And it kind of, and I don't remember to this day exactly how it occurred to us, but we realized, people get married later in their lives, their personal and professional lives. They don't necessarily need the kinds of things that our parents registered for, kitchenware and stuff like that.
So true.
Family and friends, in a lot of cases you're consolidating two households, but family and friends still want to celebrate with a meaningful gift. And so, well, what if they could register for a photographer, or really a vendor, any vendor, it could be a venue, it could be anyone. Photographers, though, naturally, we have the most amount of things that we can upsell. We have, I guess, value adds, really. So maybe if you are already committing to the photography itself, you want an album, you want prints, things like that. So the idea was, well, what if you could register for that? And again, most photographers not being particularly technically minded or wanting to do that, what if we could code that as a platform? And so I wrote that. It's been several years now, and it's not in WordPress. We have toyed with the idea of releasing it as a WordPress plugin also, and that may be forthcoming in the next few months. But yeah, so it's there as a platform. Anyone can sign up. We do offer a truly unlimited trial. Being a newer concept, we felt that was important that people can kind of try it with confidence. It's an easy way to create registries. You can set up your own branding. You can add as many clients as you want to, customize the products and services that can be registered for, and it works really well.
Awesome. And so wedding photography, Gively, IT, and now you're helping photographers with their WordPress websites. What is these all kind of are natural transitions. Really, you could see the journey from one to the other, but what is the thing that you enjoy the most working with photographers on their website? So what have you sort of discovered in this journey that you're like, wow, I didn't sort of see that coming? Is there something like that for you?
I think for me, again, IT is problem solving. I mean, really, that's what we're all doing. We're all solving problems. And so, again, I empathize a lot with, that stuff comes pretty naturally to me. It doesn't come naturally to other people.
Yeah.
I know a lot of photographers, they're great at making images. They're very natural with people, and I'm not necessarily natural with people, but they're just very friendly. They have all of these things going for them, but their website is consistently giving them problems, or it's down, or they want to be able to accomplish something with it that they can't. So for me, that's what I enjoy, is just helping them, kind of bridge that gap in their service offering.
I love it.
So what are some of the things that that photographers have outsourced or should consider outsourcing for their websites? Like, custom development, of course. If they have an idea that they want, of course, that's like the more of the obvious answer, only because that's what's first thing that comes to mind. If you think, what should I outsource? Oh, I can't do this. I should, right? But what are some of the things that photographers might not think about outsourcing that they probably should consider? For example, like blogging, right? When a photographer can't come up with ideas for blog posts, they don't have the time for blog posts. They're doing well enough that they just can't, stop.
Absolutely.
Doing the photography. So what are some of the other things?
Well, and I do work with clients who have time, but I work with a lot of them that don't. And so, to your point, that's the most natural thing. What can I outsource? What's the most effective use of my time?
Yep.
If I can pay somebody to do these things that I either don't like or that I'm not good at, why waste my time on it? So along those lines, I think what I see most are challenges with hosting. So, if your host doesn't, if they're down constantly, and this is a very common problem and a very common complaint, and unfortunately there are a million hosts out there. Where do you begin? If you're a photographer, you really don't know who to go to or how to tell the difference. So a lot of things end up being like hosting related. So maybe a recurring backup. I cannot tell you how many people I talked to who lost years of their web presence because they were hacked or because they, just somebody dropped the ball somewhere. So making sure that you have your own copy of your files at all times. So in the worst case scenario, you can get back online within a few days instead of it being just a lost cause. I think, and I'm still learning myself, but these are things that I feel like I have some valuable insight on, and just pointing people in the right directions. And again, sometimes people want it very hands-on. They just want, take this. I want you to do it all, make it go. And then other times they just need a little bit of advice. So it definitely runs the gamut of different, I guess, needs. But I don't know if that answers your question, but that's I think, and really again, that's something that you guys at ImageLead, that's a really valuable service. Is you're managed, and I use this term. I don't know if it's the term you use, but you're managed hosting. I mean, you're really you're doing a lot of that heavy lifting for people again who don't really want or need to do that. Right.
Yep. Yeah. That's exactly it. So, are you doing any custom theme development at all, or is it mostly maintenance and some functionality type of things?
Some, and I'd like to do more. And again, you've probably experienced this. Some themes are very well written, and some are not.
Yeah.
Whole WordPress ecosystem, as a programmer, like I know programming, but the WordPress ecosystem, it's really its own world, and so I'm getting better at that, but I'm still learning a lot as I go also.
Yeah, there's a lot of standards in WordPress, and unfortunately there's a lot of themes and plugins that by the standards.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
So, we have the conversation about, like, should you buy from Themeforest, and if you do choose because they are cheaper, then you're paying perhaps to outsource to help have someone hold your hand through the process, or if they don't have support available on their theme. I mean, even a programmer is sort of dead in the water because it's their code, the one you're purchasing. So,
by the way, the Themeforest themes might not be cheaper for much longer.
Really?
Yeah, they recently announced that now theme developers and plugin developers can name their own pricing instead of having to use some of their set scales.
Yep.
You can now name your own pricing. And so now there's themes that are on ThemeForest for like $10,000 or something, some crazy amount.
Wow.
Just because people can. They're not going to sell any, but it's because they can, so they edit it. So the whole ThemeForest being cheaper might stay the same. We'll see how it goes, but it could just go away.
Well, I think, again, the price, $49 for a theme, a photographer sees that, buys it, and then has no experience of how to modify it, how to...
Right.
And it may not even be the photographer's level of experience. I mean, I've purchased ThemeForest themes that legitimately don't do what they say they do, but you've already paid the money, you've already committed, so you're in there and you're trying to figure it out. And, it definitely, I believe it brought WordPress to a next level because it allowed for it to be accessible to everyone in any price range, but then it also allowed everyone to be accessible in every price range who couldn't then afford, the support that it needed, so it left a lot of holes. And I think that's where we are. I mean, I think there's a value to charging more for a theme, knowing that you're going to get a better support behind it, just like talking about hosting, making sure that you're paying a little bit more, but knowing that someone's going to hold your hand, or working with someone to, handle your WordPress maintenance, make sure there's no secure themes, make sure you have a backup and it's not even a question of if you get hacked, it's a question of when you get hacked. And I think that's a concept that, a local photographer may think, well, why would someone hack me? Because they can.
Here's a short and simple story about when you get hacked. So I was doing a test, and I had it was a test URL. Wasn't live. It was on the internet, right? But it's not indexed by search engines. It was literally a test playground where I can just test plugin updates and themes and stuff like that. And I did not install a security plugin on purpose, and I did not make my password difficult on purpose. And still, that site was found and hacked.
Yeah.
Right? So this is all on purpose, right? But it's because there was very low security on this specific test site on purpose. It wound up getting found and getting hacked easily. So it is literally a matter of when, if you're not taking any appropriate security measures. And
if your username is admin and your password has some kind of functionality of the word password in it, even with you're going to get hacked.
Yeah.
Those are things you can change.
Yeah, a little tip for anybody is for any passwords. I use 1Password for all my passwords, so they're all super difficult to remember. But is come up with a phrase for your website. Come up with a phrase to log in, and so that way it's a phrase that has some characters mixed in. An A is an ampersand, and a 1 or an I is an exclamation mark or whatever. But make it a phrase that you will remember all the time. And, that way it's a difficult password, but it's something easy to remember.
Well, it's also...
To piggyback on that, I was going to say, I recommend, and I don't remember where I read this, unfortunately, but take a phrase, what you just said, and take the first 2 letters of each word. And so that effectively gives you like a random password. I mean, the letters are random, but again, it's very memorable. And like you said, add a punctuation mark or 2, and then add the numbers, things like that.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. My son's learning guitar, and he's 4, and they have like Easter Bunny, because it's like EBA. I forget what it's called when they just pull the first letters of a phrase. But
I know what you mean, but yeah.
Right. Anything you can do to help you remember this seemingly not related letter stream with numbers and characters thrown in. I know we're saying it like, do it, no problem. But there are tools like LastPass and what's the one you use, Scott?
1Password, yeah.
1Password, where they remember it for you.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about things like that is you generate really difficult passwords per site, per app, per whatever. But then you have 1 password to unlock that. What 1Password calls it a vault. So you have 1 password to unlock the vault of all your difficult passwords.
Right.
And actually, 1Password is so secure that when they actually tell you if you lose this master password, you're not getting it back.
Right.
They have no services to unlock it. It's impossible. So they actually give you. Yeah.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was going to say they actually give you an emergency kit. So when you create your 1Password account and your vault and your 1Password, they generate a PDF that you can print out and put it in a safe somewhere that is your reminder of what it is to get back into it.
Yeah.
So anyway, what were we going to say, Chris?
Oh, I think to add to your point earlier, like you say, like, oh, I'm a photographer. Why would anyone hack my site? It's always, unless you're like a very valuable site doing millions of dollars in e-commerce, it's going to be an automated thing. It's going to be kind of like in the same way that Google crawls the internet, that it's consistently automated. It's scanning things on an automated basis. It's the same way with hackers. I mean, there's just a list of things that are coded into a machine and it just goes around trying them. So I think that's, and again, it's two parts. It's using best practices, which those are published. WordPress does publish some best practices that they suggest. And again, some of those are technical in nature. And then it's also working with the host that's going to take care of their end of the bargain.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think when it comes to some things that photographers might want to outsource, custom themes. But what if there was a photographer who was like, all right, I love this one theme that's on the WordPress.org repository. It's free, 100% free. But I kind of want some tweaks. This is where a photographer that prefers that might go to somebody like Chris and say, okay, I like this theme. It's perfect for my photography, except I need these changes. I'll hire you to make those changes because I don't know what to do. So
absolutely.
So there's sort of a custom theme without it being custom theme from the ground up. And the cool part is you can now check, if you went this route, you can now check the WordPress directory for reviews and support for that theme. So you can see if that theme has been successful over time, or if they're constantly running into issues, or what users of the theme feel about it. So you're getting, there's a lot of data there for you to analyze for yourself to choose if that's right for you. So
yeah, I know a lot of people don't know that the WordPress.org has a wide variety of themes. But So Chris, my question for you, in doing theme customization versus theme ground up development, do you do child themes for those photographers? Do you recommend, I know Genesis, it's sort of crucial to use child themes, but if you're just modifying any theme, do you recommend child themes, or how do you sort of work that into your workflow?
I'll be candid with you. Like I say, I'm still learning the WordPress ecosystem. The child themes, I have not personally developed that way. I think, and not because it's a bad idea. I think it's a great idea. I haven't ventured into that yet. But I think it's always a case-by-case basis for me. Sometimes, sometimes it really is a custom theme from the ground up, and other times it's, well, I have this theme and I really just need this one theme. So it really runs the gamut.
Two quick things. One, I think we should talk about what a child theme is. I know we've talked about this before in the podcast, but let's just say it again. So there's a child theme and a parent theme. The average theme that's out there in the WordPress space is a parent theme, or really it's just a theme, right? It works on its own. And there are what's called child themes, which is basically a smaller version of the theme that just references everything from the parent theme and then has the customizations there. And what happens is when you activate this child theme in your backend, the parent theme has to be uploaded on your server. It needs to be installed on the website. And by activating the child theme, it in turn will also use the disabled parent theme. So this is what Genesis is a good case study on this. So all the Imagely themes, for example, are all child themes. And when you install an Imagely theme, you also have to install Genesis. And then you would activate whatever Imagely theme you want, and just Genesis will be used without you realizing Genesis is being used. So that's one. That's the difference between a child theme and a standard theme. But then the other thing I wanted to mention, Chris, is have you ever looked at the underscores theme? And
no,
if not,
I've heard of it.
Okay, so underscores is probably a theme that you should start looking at for whenever you do custom work, because it's made by Automatic. And basically what underscores does is gives you a framework with no styling whatsoever. But it's basically starting you out with a WordPress theme using WordPress best practices as your base level, and then you just build upon that.
That's
so
awesome.
It's a really good starting point.
I'll look at that for sure.
Well, I resonate what you said about not doing child themes because, again, I have a certain level of knowledge and I feel like WordPress tells you to do these things, but going in there and actually creating a child theme in addition to like modifying your theme, that's hard. It's hard for a photographer to do. It's hard for a beginner to do. It's nice to hear that even at an advanced user level like you are, like it's still something that, yes, it's best practices, quote unquote, but
right.
Maybe the easier thing is, so I do know that with Genesis themes, the child theme is definitely the best theme, right?
It's required,
yeah.
Right, because the Genesis framework itself is constantly updating. So every time they update, if you don't have a child theme, you lose your styling stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
So you can, if there's a security update, you don't update your child theme. You're just updating the parent theme or an SEO update or whatever.
Right. But then I feel like if you're using like a regular theme, like a Themeforest theme or a Profoto theme or one that, Profoto is built on a framework, but one that's not built on like a framework, this is where this child theme, parent theme discussion, like you hear about it, but you think, wow, that's so much extra work.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And again, that whole model makes perfect sense. And I think it's something that I just have not personally explored. But again, it's something I'd like to get into and figure out.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one big advantage of it is from your standpoint and from the photographer standpoint is anything major that is changed, you don't have to do that change every time. So it takes a lot of the maintenance out of your work to update your custom theme to fix issues. Because if you I'm going to use a technical term and I'll explain what it means, but if you fork the Genesis theme, for example, and you make your own theme built on Genesis without it being a child theme, if there's a major Genesis update, you now have to go ahead and do that update in your own theme as well. So what fork is, it's basically a fork is usually a legal copy of software. It's when the license allows for a copy to be made. So a fork is a legal copy.
One would hope it's legal.
Yeah.
Right.
There are a lot of forks that are not legal that are out there. So
yeah. Well, so we usually move into favorite plugins or themes or things that you use. Are there any that you use more than others in your journeys with WordPress?
Yeah, either for yourself or for your clients that you're using on a regular basis.
I would actually defer to the two of you there because, again, just I have a lot of coding experience, but not a ton of WordPress experience yet. So when people ask me to do things, like I can read the PHP and I can say, well, yeah, and I try to refer back to the WordPress best practices.
Are there any, if it's not a plugin or theme, is there any maintenance tools that you're using on a regular basis that have been handy for your clients that you have like under retainer or anything like that?
It varies so much. So a lot of times I like to use like cron jobs to run exports of their MySQL database, use FTP to back those up, to move those around. And again, I'm not saying that's the best way to do it. That's just the way I've done it. Mm-hmm. So I wish I could answer that in a more, more interesting way, but it's been really, it just depends on who I'm working with and what their needs are so far. I'm getting more into the universe of plugins and just, I ask friends who have a lot of experience, if somebody needs something in particular that I don't have experience with, but yeah.
All right. So that's fine.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to take this time actually, because Yoast has been getting a lot of, we have a lot of conversation about it. But what I've noticed, and Scott, I'd love to chat with you guys both of you about this. So you use Yoast to make your SEO go green, right? By picking a target keyword and then filling out all the various boxes. But have you ever tried to have the content part of it go green, the readability, what they're saying now?
No, I don't. I don't even. Honestly, I'm not. I haven't been paying attention to that. I've been
Yeah.
using Hemingway to optimize my content itself for readability, and I just kind of. I don't know. I think it was. I respect Yoast and team for trying to branch out a little bit from SEO in the plugin, but at the same time, I don't think it was necessary.
Yeah, that's where I was going with it. I totally agree with you. So I want to let photographers know that if you're panicking about the readability part, I work with professional writers and we can't get it to go green because it's sort of like in that situation they're really sort of dumbing it down and wanting you to make lists. And I don't mean the word dumbing it down because if you are getting it green, that's awesome because it says it helps your SEO. But I think if you're writing in complete sentences and you're writing for your target client and you're writing to really connect with that person, then even if your readability part of it is read, I wouldn't worry about it. So I did want to bring that up.
Yeah. So readability does have an impact on SEO. It does. But I just don't think that the plugin is doing it in a way that is really beneficial for anybody. I don't think the tool is up to par from where it should be. I think maybe in another year, maybe it'll be at that point, but the $10 app called Hemingway does a much better job. And you can optimize your content before you even put it onto WordPress. You can do it offline. So I'll link to Hemingway in the doc. That's what I would recommend for anybody who does want to simplify the words they're writing to make it easier for anybody to read. I would recommend the Hemingway app. And again, I think last I checked, it was $10.
I know, but again, I mean, even all these electronic tools, the worry that I think is that you're not speaking to. I think that if you use a Chrome browser, you can install a thing called Grammarly,
right,
and that can help you with your grammar.
Yep.
But if you're telling the story of you as a photographer and you're telling the story of your clients at that moment, I think that's going to be fine because we're not in the business to sell the words per se. And yes, I agree with Scott about getting to 300 words, but I really took issue with the Yoast plugin trying to just like automize. That's my new word.
Nice. I dig it.
Obviously writer, right? To automize writing because you can't, because you're using it for different purposes as a photographer.
Yeah. Well, so what I like about the Hemingway app is it's not really telling you your writing is not good. It's telling you you're using this adjective way too many times, or try changing the adjective you're using, or try taking this adjective out because you don't need it. It's telling you little things like that will just improve the content without harming your persona in the content. So it's doing it in a really elegant way.
Right. I was going to say the same thing. Like, I don't think it's the end all be all, but it's a fantastic first step, just making what you're saying a lot better. And the other thing, my personal experience with SEO, there's a lot we know, but there's a lot we don't know. And, I've seen websites that violate virtually every best practice and they're still ranking highly in Google. And I've seen websites that are doing everything right and they're nowhere to be seen. So I think it's an important thing. It's something that you want to spend some time thinking about or again, outsourcing that to someone who does. But it's really, it is still kind of a black box. Like there's a lot, again, there's things we know, there's things that usually work most of the time for most people, but I wouldn't like hang my hat on getting a green light in an app. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I ended
totally agree.
Yeah. I ended my my image SEO talk at Canada Photo Convention with this quote from Rebecca Gill from Web Savvy Marketing. SEO is not about a green light. That was it. That's it.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
That just sums it up. SEO is not about a green light. Yeah. The green light, it's nice to be able to get closer, and yes, it'll help. If you get that green light, it'll help, but that doesn't end there. There's so much more to SEO than just that green light and everything that leads up to it. So,
absolutely.
When it was tying it back to Rachel's original comment about the green light regarding the content, the actual the readability, make that the least of your priorities when it comes to SEO, because I like to say there's a fine line between SEO and branding, and to me the readability is on the branding side, and I'd lean more toward branding than I would SEO when it comes to that.
I'd agree.
So So,
I agree.
nice. So if anybody is watching, Rachel's at a local university, so she's not in her normal room with the photos and stuff behind her. She's in an office that looks like cubicles. So that's fun.
Living the freelance life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
So, Rachel, anything else you want to ask Chris, talk about with Chris before we close up?
No, thank you. I mean, I just wanted to tell people and photographers that if you do have a project that you need help with, I mean, Chris is literally the one person I recommend. So,
Yeah.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And Chris, anything that you want to close with? Any words of wisdom for any photographers or anything like that?
No, thank you again for having me, and I appreciate what you're doing. I actually listened to a number of your podcasts earlier throughout the week, and I think there's a lot of really great stuff on here. So I appreciate it, and I learned some things in the first few minutes that I got to go check out now. So
awesome, that's great.
I appreciate what you guys are doing.
Totally cool. Well, Chris, thank you for joining us today, and thank you, Rachel, for being an awesome co-host.
Thank you, Scott. Now, Chris, where can we find you on the web?
Photography, I'm at chrisaram.com. And again, I still do weddings. I have a blog at chrisaram.net. And then Gively, if you're interested in that, you can go to Gively. And I think it's going to be in the show notes. There's a link that just tells us that you heard about us on Imagely. Check that out there. And again, we'd love to see you.
Yeah, so if you want to check out Gively, definitely you can Google it, of course, or just type in the URL or visit the show notes. That way, they know that you listen to the podcast first. That would be awesome. So you can find the show notes from today's episode at imagely.com/podcast/26.
26,
yes. And next episode we will have Twyla, who. I got to meet her in Canada. She is awesome, extremely smart in all things business, and she just has great stories to tell that I think a lot of photographers will relate to. So, should be really interesting. So until next time, have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the WordPress Photography Podcast. To listen to other episodes and to subscribe to the podcast via iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and more, please visit imagely.com/podcast.